My name is Arun Jagtiani, and I'm a proud St. Martin. In a few short weeks, our country is going to be heading to the polls to elect 15 new members to Parliament. There's 126 candidates from 9 different political parties that are contesting this election, and I think the entire voting population could benefit from knowing a little bit more about who these candidates are. Over the next few days, I'm going to interview a few new faces and a few political veterans. So join me, St. Martin, let's talk politics. The current administration, which you're a part of, has served for, it's been almost a year, just shy of a year?
Not even shy, but rather you're talking 9 months. You're talking approximately 9 months,
okay.
Yeah.
And I recall from some of the press releases at the time when this current administration was sworn in,
right.
was to, one of the goals was to try to put measures in to prevent ship jumping,
yes.
Some electoral reform. What measures has this new administration put in place to prevent it, or at least to limit the likelihood of ship jumping again?
The process to curb ship jumping actually started by the previous government.
Okay.
However, it is one of the prerequisites for this government. So the decree on the basis of which this government was established mentions 2 very fundamental issues that needed to be tackled: electoral reform,
yes.
to curb ship jumping, and to do something about the financial situation of the country. And so the government started the process to look at what can be done to deal with electoral reform, to curb ship jumping. And back in 2013, then as Prime Minister of the country, I made a presentation to Parliament because remember that at that time, I was faced on more than one occasion with the issue of ship jumping and a change of government.
Yes.
While I remained Prime Minister throughout, fact is that there were 2 changes in government following the 2010 election. So I went to Parliament, I said, Parliament, I'm making you some proposals. We need to deal with this matter of ship jumping. Absolutely. Because it contributes to instability without a doubt.
Yep.
And I made some suggestions to look at our electoral ordinance, 1, to look at the ordinance on the registration and financing of political parties.
Yes.
And I also mentioned the Constitution. But I mentioned that as a last resort, considering the process that we would have to go through to change the Constitution.
Okay.
But we could tighten up certain things in the 2 other ordinances that I mentioned. That was my proposal to Parliament. So it really didn't go very far in Parliament. And then we fast forward and come to where we are today. And as I mentioned, electoral reform is a critical item for this government.
Absolutely.
The first proposal that came from the government had to do with a change to the Constitution of St. Martin, and a change that would bar independently declared members of Parliament from being part of the government formation. Okay. Why? In 100% of the cases, I can state a ship jumping or the ship jumping occurred not on the basis of any fundamental disagreement with one's party, but rather with the opportunity that was there to form a new government, to be part of the formation of a new government. That is the incentive for which all MPs up until now have jumped ship. So that is what we need to look at.
So that possibility has now been taken off the table.
That was the intention with the proposed change by the government now, to take that away and say, well, if you have declared yourself independent, you cannot be negotiating the formation of a new government, because then you get into the individual MPs or the factions.
Sure.
They want to have their own minister, as they like to call it,
Yes.
and also like to show. So, but what happened? That proposal was knocked down. It didn't even reach Parliament for debate.
Wow.
Because it was knocked down by the Council of Advice. Okay. That had to receive such a proposal, and by the kingdom government. Why? Because according to these advisory institutions like the Council of Advice and the kingdom government itself, such a change to our constitution would be infringing on the right. I don't agree it's a right.
Fair. Okay.
Right. I don't agree that's a right per se, but the stipulation that a member of parliament votes without instruction and mandate. I think that stretches it somewhat to say, well, you should allow an MP to do what he or she wants. I think that's stretching it. But in any case, that was the holdup in that piece of legislation.
Sure.
You see? And so now, right now, as I constantly look at, read, received, and sought to get the ball moving and rolling, and so right now, I think the opportunity is, as far as I am concerned, what I can do is to look at a change in the rules of order of Parliament, because I have that in, I can't say in my hand because I would need a support, but
Sure.
I can push that.
You have it in your grasp,
Exactly.
so to speak.
And for example, eliminate what is now in the rules of order, that when an independent MP becomes independent, he or she automatically becomes a faction in Parliament with all of the rights and privileges of a faction that had to go through election, have candidates elected, etc., etc. I think if we start there, eliminating that, you, by declaring yourself independent, should not automatically become a faction. Wait for another election or
Fair.
something of that nature. So that's what I'm thinking of. And in addition to that, just the last couple of days, I have proposed a code of conduct for political parties to sign off to, establishing that we, because I would be part of it, do not encourage or support ship jumping.
Of course.
Because as I put it, in order to have ship jumping, the supply of ship jumping, there must be a demand. And that demand comes from the political parties that want a new government.
Sure.
So imagine political parties declaring that they will not encourage that, they will not support, and they will not accept ship jumpers to form a new government.
Sure.
And
Okay.
that's my proposal now. How many, if any, political parties will sign off is another thing, because the only sanction to that would be from the people. You can't hold it legally and say, well, he signed off that he did not, you know. So that's what, but to me it will send a good signal towards the population.
So what I'm hearing is, at this moment, despite numerous efforts from yourself and I'm sure others as well, we're still somewhat vulnerable to this happening again.
We are indeed
For whatever it's worth, I'll give you my personal take. I think if somebody got a seat in Parliament by writing the tales of the party,
right.
If they choose to leave, I think they should leave that seat with the party. But if they actually had enough votes to earn that seat on their own merit, then I think they've earned the right to, quote unquote, ship jump if they saw a better opportunity.
And even that kind of a differentiation would be better than what we have now,
I would think so,
which
yes.
is nothing.
And typically it's only the leaders that would have pulled their own weight.
Right,
let's say.
exactly. And
in most cases.
And there is a void in our entire system where up to election, it's all about the political party.
Correct.
The political party is responsible to field a slate, to make sure that their candidates comply with all of the requirements.
Sure.
The political party is responsible for the reporting, accounting, and recording of the finances, not only of the party, but you also need that of the candidates to make sure that together there is no transgression of the law.
Right.
So even a situation like that, to me, would be clearer towards the public in terms of, you know, if you vote him or her in completely, that would give him or her
they
some
have that
extra,
leverage and they would have earned that right, I think, if they pulled enough votes. But again, for somebody who gets a seat with a couple hundred, 100 or 200 votes,
then pull that.
To then have the power to
throw the whole
completely
thing
turn the tables around
in a tailspin.
I don't think that's fair for the public at large.
So
basically.
true.
Yeah.